On May 23, 1993, wax, or the discovery of television among the bees, entered the internet, projected by a cable into a wall. Inside that internet, there are no movies there. And so wax, waiting until the last frame enters the wall, then begins the first movie on the internet, to continue forever, for that is how the first movie on the internet begins, at the first frame after the last frame. A true story, and this is that movie, and in reverse. And so, we begin.
As you are aware, the internet is a DVD on a coffee cup. I could show you how that happens, how the handle of the coffee cup becomes the hole in the center of the DVD. How the interior of the coffee cup disappears into the surface of a flat disc as I spin. I am the first movie on the internet. I am inside a DVD on a coffee cup. I could show you how that happens. How the movie appears between two frames, between the front and the back of the DVD disc. I am the first frame after the last frame. I am the movie in the DVD on the coffee cup. I am wax, or the discovery of television among the bees. I am 999 years, 364 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 48 seconds long. And then it was dark, until dawn.
It was a library in progress for the Russian Orthodox monks of St. Anthony. Was a library in progress for the Russian Orthodox monks of St. Anthony. Was a library in progress for the Russian Orthodox monks of St. Anthony. Was a library in progress for the Russian Orthodox monks of St. Anthony.
An empty window frame showing the mountains beyond. Jacob walks in, then pauses to look up at the mountains. The Great Wall of China butted right up against the edge of the monastery, provided adequate shade. Occasional overflow visitors, one out every 100,000 of them decides to stay, read the Bible, work on building up the monastery's infrastructure. The small hand-built church of the Kellyan. The moon is faint above the apex. The two are in constant communication. Even St. Anthony still talks to vanquished demons. Intelligence needs to be gathered, perhaps in exchange for messages passed back to the families of the damned, wondering whatever happened to great-great-uncle Vuk, who used to work for the Black Hand, back in the old days, before the Great War. The monk appears from the church. The little lizards have rung the alarm, alerting somewhat smaller but more intelligent demons who are under complete control, having entered a program of religious instruction, and only do good works these days, such as counting cars that go by, none, or jets that go by, lots, or flies that go by. Won't tell you here, but the number looks a bit like pi. These demons aren't allowed to talk directly the monk, though he does look kindly on them, but they manage to get messages to him, and so, somehow or other, he knows to get up from prayer and go out to talk to Jacob. The monk walks from right to left, with the mountains very low in the frame. Counting his steps, each is a prayer. No time wasted on the road to Jerusalem. Long road there. Lots of time to perfect various thinking techniques. The monk walks down the road, robes waving in the etheric wind. He knows Cain, met Abel before the incident, and has some idea of what the future holds. Should he speak in riddles? Or tell Jacob directly? Turn left, right, left again, and don't forget to ask for name deleted when you get there. Turning a corner through the bushes. Another day, another dollar.
I met Father Bessarion. I met Father Bessarion. I met Father Bessarion. I met Father Bessarion.
The monk walks through the wall window and appears behind, with Jacob, who is describing the lights he saw in the sky. They flew round and round each other, stared at him, told him about bad things happening to good people and bad people, etc., etc. The usual Sinai trip. The monk has heard it all before, and lived it too. Not much to say. Nod your head. Suggest a good book in a local language. Doesn't work for everyone these days, just like it didn't in those days. The incomplete walls, a lack of chairs, only the floor for a bed. Someday, however, there will be polished floors, a basement, a library, microfiche storage areas, direct 12-way radio links to bigger facilities, perhaps even a branch tunnel leading to the intercontinental underground maglev Jerusalem subway, all branches of which end up there, at a depot near the Wailing Wall. Jacob and the monk walk down the road in matching clothes. But it is the dark-suited one who has trained to have a spotless soul, while white-clad Jacob is currently working out issues related to soul stains he thinks everyone can see.
He told me that there were demons in the desert. He told me that there were demons in the desert. He told me that there were demons in the desert. He told me that there were demons in the desert.
The rear mountains swallow the horizon. They have the shape of a phoneme waveform, a vowel caught in a sky throat, a warning sigh meant to waken you to an alertness which, in the middle of your worry, will allow you to see the setting sun colors prismed deep by the mineral contour of the eroding mountain slopes. Bright light shining here at the edge of space and humanity's immortal empire of breath. Jet seen through a cinetheodolite, flying low perhaps near those mountains, while releasing its missiles as air birth. They have several destiny paths set out in front of them. Some can crash. Some can crash and explode, right where they're told to go. Some can crash and explode, but off target. Some can go up and live on the moon. Some can shrink and fly around all day as bugs or bees. Some can take demon form and give travelers bad advice. A few other choices, but they are at the bottom of the daily menu and not often taken. The spinning hive. Bees on the comb. A dynamo, powering the sun, for which they get a fat fee, every day at midnight, an anti-compass defense system, whose flat and fluctuating magnetic fields tend send travelers running around and around, looking for the true north, mapping out their round path later. The travelers guess that they should look for north within, somewhere under the last rib. With this realization, an alert door to the hyperspace toll road opens, offering to take a credit card.
Father Bessarion also told me that bees lived in the historical marker at Trinity site, where the Army had tested the first plutonium bomb. That was 40 miles to the north. Father Bessarion also told me that bees lived in the historical marker at Trinity site, where the Army had tested the first plutonium bomb. That was 40 miles to the north. Father Bessarion also told me that bees lived in the historical marker at Trinity site, where the Army had tested the first plutonium bomb. That was 40 miles to the north. Father Bessarion also told me that bees lived in the historical marker at Trinity site, where the Army had tested the first plutonium bomb. That was 40 miles to the north.
The sun setting yet again, as our little Maya the bee continues into the night on a random quest. Actually on the runway at Northrop Strip, where the shuttle lands. Practicing. Right now it's on dinner break, so Jacob has a chance to run across quickly.
The next morning found me at White Sands, a great stretch of pulverized gypsum, the main ingredient in wallboard. The next morning found me at White Sands, a great stretch of pulverized gypsum, the main ingredient in wallboard. The next morning found me at White Sands, a great stretch of pulverized gypsum, the main ingredient in wallboard. The next morning found me at White Sands, a great stretch of pulverized gypsum, the main ingredient in wallboard.
The moon, distorted, pushes in from the left, to take up residence on the right, in a little pocket hanging on the edge of great space, just big enough for it to rest its rump in and pant, trying to get breath back after the great groaning run from screen left. An Arctic figure in black, running through the distance, heading back home, across the ice. Jacob, in a parallel world. The seventh seal. The White Sands as the sunrise arrives, and Jacobot walks on an edge, followed by an umbra sun, which he hopes doesn't try to use him as a stepping stone to noon. Jacob walks in from the left, following the dust trail, heading towards the water. Noir patterns at the horizon indicate that Deseret radars have woken up for the morning, and all is well. Jacob walks up from behind a flat line of the dune, directly towards us. Looks like an ambush. Shoot him down before he gets near, says someone in your pioneer party, the one who steals water in the evenings. Jacob dissolves into the space between the curve of the sand and the perspective-less mist of the mountain. Space wipes itself clean of forked human forms every once in a while, leaving clean mountain air and high starry nights for all the non-humans to enjoy, for a few moments. Noon hurt. Just the mist and white noise of the wind go up for a moment, and people in hats just can't be seen or heard. Up in the control room, however, the weather bees are still tracking Jacob.
Out of the haze, a giant floating light appeared. Out of the haze, a giant floating light appeared. Out of the haze, a giant floating light appeared. Out of the haze, a giant floating light appeared.
Jacob is small on a white hillock, against the solid gray of the distant mountains. Here time turns into space. Cubic time, rotating round and round, left to right, top to bottom, sharp sides sticking up and slicing the void into a sphere. He is on the right side of the frame, looking left. Should be looking up. Should reach up. See if someone stuck a target do up there, top of his helmet. But he is distracted. Across the sand, he hears marching music, wonders if residual minerals in the soil make this sort of place into a giant radio receiver, just as certain silver amalgams have the rumored property of allowing people with lots of dental work to actually feel the words of the morning, afternoon, and evening radio news networks, right in their jaws. Jacob looks out. He's high enough to see over most of the sand humps, and so feels that he can tell if anyone or anything is following him, trying to sneak up and steal his shoes, test his edible blood, use radioactively devices close up to check for tooth decay or other problems that would decrease his blue book value. Good thing he's watching. because there is a certain amount of danger here. Oscillator bars roll down at high speed. One-way spaces hide in the higher dimensions, pretending that they are part of the universal expansion in types of space, internal, external, or at new angles to everything known, which the recent explosion in the sale of Dimension franchises. North America is fully covered with 37 counted, as of yesterday, has promised to facilitate. Some of these new dimensions, however, are just cheap copies of the older ones, and don't offer much more motion than you can see here. Small horizontal oscillator bars. A graded filter, electronically activated by the bees and their BTV, has dropped down over Jacob's eyes and brain. Normal light, traveling through, will now be diffracted into patterns and shapes that speak of other sorts of places and spaces. Under the influence of this grading, photons jump from place to place, without actively considering the fact that they are avoiding all the places in between.
Its body was a poem written in the language of Cain. Its body was a poem written in the language of Cain. Its body was a poem written in the language of Cain. Its body was a poem written in the language of Cain.
Sphere or coin with oscillator shapes on its surface drops from top of frame. It changes to square, then back. Jacob shields his eyes to see it. No windows or ladders appear. Might be a body, someone he used to know when he knew people who looked like this. He tries to remember, wants to ask, "Do I know you?"
Here was a missile that had left the earth and returned to touch me. Here was a missile that had left the earth and returned to touch me. Here was a missile that had left the earth and returned to touch me. Here was a missile that had left the earth and returned to touch me.
The rotating poem becomes larger, spinning to start the poem on the outer surface, with liquid words in its depths starting their own counterspin in immediate response, creating eyes and voids and whirlpool staircases that lead to the continental shelf, where ammonium Poseidon, visiting here from the oceans of Neptune, is sitting on a makeshift chair in a toga, enjoying the view from inside, up through the poisoned atmosphere, which filters the midday sun in pleasing ways. Twang goes the harp. A bucolic moment, everyone admits. Meanwhile, Jacob is shaking in his anti-bee boots. The poem shape transparently touches Jacob on the hillock. The horizon then straightens itself. Advanced technology has scooped him up without making a mark on the sand dune, even managed to wipe clean his last 4 footprints, which is a pretty nice subroutine.
The desert became the past. The dead marched across the sands to reach me. The desert became the past. The dead marched across the sands to reach me. The desert became the past. The dead marched across the sands to reach me. The desert became the past. The dead marched across the sands to reach me.
O Ancient of Days, say the minions of Mr. Ancient of Days, O tell us how to convert yards to meters. They're having some trouble getting exact measurements of how high they are off the ground, how wide the white sands are, all needed for volumetric calculation of their boss sphere of influence. Actually, this question never got past their throat. They didn't have the nerve to ask. Instead they go around grabbing up loose wandering talent like this Jacob here, offering drug coffee and afterwards asking all the questions they need to, and at the end of the sessions, a few trick questions as well, meant to mystify the kidnappee upon wakening, and dull his or her sense of the general direction of questioning during the session. Silly questions like, when you say pie, do you mean pie? Slice of pie? What? Answer me. Change of scene, caused by a sudden change of season or weather in one of the higher or lower dimensions. This sudden phase shift intrudes here as a vision of this same place in another time, a past parallel with our present, though there is a TV quality to the vision, meaning we can see them but they can't see us. Young dead people of vague sex walk in a line along the top of a dune, walking on the top of a wall buried in the sand, hand in hand so they can stay in step, not wander off course and end up buried under what lies on either side, i.e. quicksand.
Their shadows crossed my face, and I began to cry. Their shadows crossed my face, and I began to cry. Their shadows crossed my face, and I began to cry. Their shadows crossed my face, and I began to cry.
The shadows of the lost dune walkers go out along the wind wrinkles. The long parallel shadow lines cross Jacob one by one, each triggering a different thought or picture, which tells him something he already knows, that does dim the impact of the feelings. The sand becomes water, and all that is left of Jacob after that are circular ripple rings marking where he disappeared into his own tears. A long flat shot across the water, the treacherous expanse of a water world flatland. People who live in a flatland are flat, and can only move laterally on the plane of its surface. However, this particular flatland is unpopulated, since everyone who tries to rest on its surface gets wet and sinks into subspace, a confusing place where you can't breathe. Matching oscillator shapes from the void, or body shapes in the language of Cain.
The sky opened. I could see the darkness. The sky opened. I could see the darkness. The sky opened. I could see the darkness. The sky opened. I could see the darkness.
Letter bodies drop out of our eyes and down into the darkness that appears on the screen. They are a multitude, self-identical, all rotating around one of their own. Multiple pop-throughs dropping along the axle at the invisible center of turning time.
I wanted to take a picture. I wanted to take a picture. I wanted to take a picture. I wanted to take a picture.
Jacob sat against an orange sky, and looking out over our shoulder at whatever UFO poetry is floating there, about to tap the top of your skull or my skull or someone else's skull and say boo or whatever is appropriate. He looks out over the mountains, far away, retreating further out than they usually do, which on the ocean's edge is always a good sign of an impending tidal wave, and here foretells something just as communally dangerous. The sky, which is somewhat lens twisted. The horizon blinks, and tears appear at the corners of the sun's round edge. Sad, uncomprehending witness.
But all I could do was dance. All I could do was dance. But all I could do was dance. But all I could do was dance.
Different parts of the landscape crash through each other, heading in a panic towards the exits. Passing right through each other. Good thing too. Otherwise some parts of the world might have ended up trampled on the floor. Planes intersect, like the metal iris parts of an opening camera eye, extended into the third dimension. Jacob spinning around on his own center, generating a weak electrical field, which is all that is needed to change the dizzy world into some place else, dark, filled with flat bees who have quiet telepathic voices and well-defined goals.
That's when the bees arrived, riding on broken fragments of time. That's when the bees arrived, riding on broken fragments of time. That's when the bees arrived, riding on broken fragments of time. That's when the bees arrived, riding on broken fragments of time.
The bees, on those same squares, each one different. This one was president of the Mu City Glee Club, which re-established itself in Central Asia after the great continent, of which Mu City was the capital city, tilted and sank. This one was Transportation Minister of the Republic of Pennsylvania. All silly, official titles, which serve to efface the fact that these bees, actually have no real identity at all. And just now, one of them is saying quite loudly to the others, in wiggle dance, that one day it is going to be this Jacob here, the one they are with and watching so closely, the dancing human jumping and falling out there on the sand.
They flatten the sands and built a room for me on stilts. So that I could be in the air when the shuttle returned. They flatten the sands and built a room for me on stilts. So that I could be in the air when the shuttle returned. They flatten the sands and built a room for me on stilts. So that I could be in the air when the shuttle returned. They flatten the sands and built a room for me on stilts. So that I could be in the air when the shuttle returned.
An automobile from another time takes a sharp left on the sand, heading towards an appointment with transubstantiation, which it hopes will improve its self-image. It wants to become an armor-plated tank. The observation platform at Northrop Strip, alternate landing site for the shuttle. The white sands are very easy to see from orbit. That white speck shining down there. Let's go there. Lots of outer space travelers take advantage of the opportunity. Meanwhile, as visitor traffic increases year to year, American space shuttles keep trying to land. 3 out of 4 times the landing has to get scrubbed because of our alien guests. Meals run low on the shuttle, and the crew members eye each other. Experiments done, they watch cable TV on their dashboard TVs. And when finally they get down, who's there to greet them? This is the only structure for miles. It is all a bit grim. At least the government does haul out a couple airstreams and portasands. So, paradoxically, the more aliens visit/land, the harder it becomes to recruit astronauts. Word of mouth gets around, and finally, the American Rocket Society has to look closely at streamlining its admission procedures, so that people like Jacob, who actually are enthusiastic and don't really care about the working conditions, do have a bit easier time getting accredited. Jacob approaches the stairs, and then dissolves to nothing. Does this again. Does this again. So on and so on, practicing a magic trick. All the middle climb has disappeared. He is up at the top in a different sized shot, in a different place, opening a different door. He doesn't notice the change, how somehow he was picked up by the back of the visor, and the place spun under his feet. Opening the door, just beyond, the astronauts are upside down. Inside the booth, this room is much bigger than the outdoors he sees through the window. Night is day outside, day is night inside, and the horizon, made of some sort of dense metal like tungsten or platinum, chemically reacts with both, creating a bubble zone at their juncture, which is something else. The shuttle is trying to land for the third time today, trying an approach at a right angle to the previous tries. Everyone inside is standing on the left side. Not everyone has strapped in, but at the same time leaning a bit right, all in an effort to stabilize the craft. This is the first time they've tried landing upside down. You can't quite see, but that's what's happening here, at least from their new outer space perspective, and they hope they get it right. Low angle, who's looking, showing Jacob behind the glass, blinking his eyes in code, hoping that the shuttle people will look out, look at him, see the peculiar pattern of blink 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 behind his veil and glasses, and make proper course corrections based on this new and accurate information. Jacob further encodes the story he sends them by wiggling his eyes back and forth a bit. Sounds simple, but the variables pile up pretty quickly. Living pixel close-up of the shuttle. Moving scales on the B-ski. Soft wax piled on itself in layers that lose their separation, until finally, to our human eye, they altogether stop looking like themselves, and take on a greater shape, flying left to right or right to left. Jacob looking rather wistful. Some part of him, watching himself from a future when he is not he anymore, remembers what these days were like, each delicious, like the last bites of a cooling meal in the Arctic summer after the sun has come up, after the boat has gone down.